Hello and welcome back to this episode of your Kingsport blog video update. I'm Jeff Fleming, City Manager, and I'd like to give you a rundown on what's going on here in Kingsport. Recently, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen talked about the summit that's coming up. The mayor has indicated that he would like to have the first summit that we've had since 1999, which resulted in a lot of the new initiatives that we've seen over the past 15 years. But gosh, when I say 15 years and I think about the age of a child from birth to high school, it's time to refresh our direction. So that's going to take place on the 29th and 30th of October, and it'll be 2 half days, and the board and many members of the community will spend time discussing what the future of Kingsport looks like and what we can do to move it in that direction. The summit will only be the first step. After that, there will be work teams that are formed, which will continue their work for at least the next 3 months, and they will report out at the board work sessions so that the tasks can be divided into manageable pieces. And so look forward to that direction coming forward, and look more for that information in the coming days. Also spent quite a bit of time talking about the city charter and the roles and responsibilities of the board in terms of their oversight of city operations, and then how much they or don't get down into the day-to-day operations of the city. So I think that helps establish the ground rules. This board is still getting its land legs, if you will, in terms of getting started and gelling as a team, and we have 4 newly elected members, so that foundational work is certainly a requirement before they can really get going. So as far as items requiring decisions, we had donations from the Friends of the Library for the library. One is to raise fundraising software to help them raise money for various items. It helps them prioritize. Also some landscaping dollars that the Friends of the Library gave, which is always appreciated. Also, Fire Station 3 on Memorial Boulevard at John B. Dennis Highway. It's a great strategic location. The fire department's very happy with that location. We thought we were going to lose that station as a result of the Memorial Boulevard State Route 126 widening and relocation project. Early alignments did call for the taking of the building, but in later modifications, the road actually went the opposite direction, so there will be a little bit more space on the side where the fire station is currently located. So it makes sense now to go ahead and refurbish that location as a long-term solution for our fire department. So we're spending $440,000 to freshen up that facility, also get it ready to accommodate the second ladder truck, which will be the strategic east side location for that service. So looking forward to that project getting started. Also allocated $66,000 to the Church Circle Waterline Improvements Project. As part of the ongoing Sullivan Street rebuilding project, we also plan to repave Church Circle. So in preparation for repaving, needed to spend some money to deal with stormwater and waterline infrastructure that's currently under Church Circle, so that once we do pave, we won't have to go back and dig it up for any obvious reason. We want to take care of those first. We also entered an agreement with TNT Sportsplex for use by the Kingsport Parks and Recreation Department. TNT Sports Complex is part of what used to be the Holston Builder Supply. There's several metal buildings on Main Street. One of those buildings was purchased by private investors and converted into a private facility for sports, basically sports tourism. It is for profit, and they of course took the risk to do the development, and so it's an opportune time for us to contract with them to use some of those spaces so that we can have multiple courts at one location for use by our recreational leagues, as opposed to having to use the Civic Auditorium or the Renaissance Center, which are not as well suited and are also limited to 1 or 2 courts. So it allows several to happen in one place. So very grateful for the investment that's made by the private sector, and very grateful for the opportunity to use that for our purposes for rec leagues as well. On the consent agenda, we looked at the funding for CATS, which is the Kingsport Area Transit System. That is $1.376 million that goes into providing that public transit service. only $344,000 is actually city local money. So we leverage the state and federal money to the benefit of our citizens. If you're not familiar with CATS, I would urge you to go to their website, give them a call if you prefer, and just learn what your options are. I know in my situation, I have an elderly mom that's needs to get to the doctor sometimes, and I can't take her, and she can't drive because maybe she's having her eyes dilated, or who knows what the reason might be. But this service is available where the CATS van will come pick you up. You're the only person in the van. They take you to the doctor, drop you off. You give a card to the receptionist when you're ready to leave. They call CATS, and they come back and get you and take you home. It's a tremendous service that's available to our citizens who need help every now and then. It's not a huge inconvenience. There's very little cost involved, and so I would encourage you to check out that option. I know many folks have maybe parents that live here and they live elsewhere, and they worry about their mom and dad and how they're going to get to the doctor, and are their daily needs getting met. So it's a great service, and I would encourage you to check that out. We also have been talking quite a bit about tax increment financing for apartments. We have 4 sets of apartments that are currently in various stages of planning and design for the city of Kingsport. We have gone since the late 80s, early 90s. It was the last time we had brand new apartments built in Kingsport that were of a what we consider an executive quality. And so what's happening is, as these young professionals are coming to get jobs in Kingsport, they are not necessarily living in Kingsport. They're living down the road in neighboring communities. And so once you move into those apartments in a neighboring community and you become familiar with your grocery and your pharmacy and just your day-to-day life, there's a high degree of likelihood you're going to buy a house nearby or within so many miles of that location, because that's what you're accustomed to. So we need to change that and give people an opportunity to experience Kingsport and then hopefully put down roots here. So one is the Villas at River Bend, which is directly behind Walmart on Fort Henry Drive. We also have the Overlook at Indian Trail, which is located behind Kmart on Stone Drive. We have the Bray property downtown Kingsport, used to be called Supermarket Row. They haven't actually named that development yet, but they are well underway in the planning for 266 units there. And then finally, an apartment complex called the Retreat at Meadowview, located behind the Hampton Inn. So we have about 732 units that are in various stages of planning and development. So 2 of those requested TIF money from the county. TIF is tax increment financing. So what does that mean? The tax increment financing means the difference between what you were paying before development and the difference after development. That increment is available to give a portion of the new taxes back to the developer rather than pay 100% to the city and county. So you get more than you always got. It's just not 100% until the incentive in duration ends. So in this case, we're talking about 15 years. If there was no development on that property, the city would collect or city and county together would collect $214,000 over 20 years. That's not each year, that's total over 20 years. With development, we're looking at, minus the incentives, we're looking at $3.967 million. So you see the substantial amount of money that we still will receive as a city and county. It's just not 100% of what we would receive if it had done a normal, just a market rate development. So the decision before the County Commission and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is, do you want to help the developer out in doing this and continuing to recruit them to come to Kingsport? Or do you want to just let the market forces work and see if that happens? And the county executive committee last night voted unanimously to support that. So we're very optimistic that both the city board of mayor and aldermen and the county commission will favorably look at these 2 projects. Similarly, on Overlook at Indian Trail, 168 units at that location. If no development took place, it'd be $193,000 over 20 years. Post-development, $3.9 million. So again, you're looking at a substantial return for both the city and the county, even with the incentives granted. So the Retreat at Meadowview, we're looking at doing road improvements to support that development to the tune of $544,000. We would rebuild Enterprise Place, add sidewalks, utilities, and other basic infrastructure to support development, and then the private sector would build the apartments. And then finally, on the Bray site, that would be a long-term lease with the Economic Development Board. It does not require any further consideration by the City Council or the County Commission, and strictly as a lease through the Economic Development Board. So we're very excited to get those opportunities off the ground so that young professionals can have an opportunity to live in Kingsport and put down roots, and then ultimately buy houses nearby. So that's the current quick update, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.